The nation's leader addressing students at the Department of Labor's Technical and Industrial Forum. The minister responsible for NIB hearing the concerns of residents. And a young man appearing in court on the charge of attempted murder.
The Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for tuning in. The Ministry of Labor, National Employment and Industrial Skills Training Subcommittee, in conjunction with the Office of the Prime Minister Grand Bahama, hosting a high school technical and industrial exhibition this morning. The nation's Prime Minister traveling to Grand Bahama for the occasion, lending his support to the future generation of this country. The opening ceremony for the Technical and Industrial Exhibition taking place at the St. George's Gymnasium. 10th through 12th grade students across Grand Bahama, Bimini and Grand Key being admonished to strongly consider careers in the technical and industrial sectors. Chairman of the Grand Bahama Subcommittee, Greg LaRota, presenting the welcome address, noting that the exhibition aims to close the skills gap that currently exists in these growing industries.
Students, your future begins today. Learn what you can from the companies represented here. Think seriously about the role you can play in nation building. Like Jacob who wrestled with the angel for his blessings, do not leave here today until you have received your blessings in the form of knowledge from the areas of your choice.
Minister of Labor, the Honorable Dion Folks, thanking the 20 companies which participated in the exhibition. He says they should be commended for giving the students the opportunity to ask in-depth questions and learn about their various organizations. He encouraged the students to take this opportunity seriously as the need for skilled workers is ever increasing.
There is a serious need for welders, pipe fitters, paint blasters, plumbers, heavy equipment operators, divers, technicians, marine riggers, oil refinery experts, and boat captains. You do not have to leave the country to obtain training in these professions. You do not have to spend lots of money on tuition, room and board, because you can remain right here at home and receive the necessary education and skills that would qualify and certify you for a job in these high-paying careers.
The nation's Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, delivering the keynote address. He says that for far too long, foreigners have been filling positions which Bahamians can fill. But unfortunately, not enough have been trained in the technical fields. The Prime Minister says that these type of forums are critical to training for the future.
With the expansion of our economy nationally and on Grand Bahama, this is an even more urgent matter, especially as construction, our second largest industry, will need many more employees and workers. Reduction of the skills gap in the Bahamas is critical in reducing unemployment, increasing productivity, and improving the ease of doing business.
The nation's leader giving the students a charge of gaining all that they can from the exhibit.
So students, I say to you, this is a marvelous opportunity for you to gain and gather as much information as possible to be able to chart your future. And your future is bright.
Now, the nation's leader is also on Grand Bahama for the official commissioning of the Smiths Point seawall. The multi-million-dollar project that began some 3 years ago encountered numerous challenges and was only recently completed by WAR Construction. Our Italia Hall spoke with the parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Works prior to today's ceremony. He reflected on the work done over the years and the way forward for the Smiths Point community.
Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works, Aaron Lewis, says he's pleased that the day has arrived for the completion of the Smiths Point seawall. He says the wall is a long overdue project, but it was necessary for the community of Smiths Point.
This seawall will certainly defend the community and protect the community of Smiths Point from storm surges and wave action that may come as a result of hurricane. Of course, we know it cannot outdo God, but we do believe that the community of Smiths Point is much better off now as a result of this seawall.
Lewis says drains were installed, which should prevent flooding issues. The road was extended and widened as well.
We can now entertain larger crowds during their fish fry seasons. They can now have street festivals in the Smiths Point community. So this is indeed a game changer. What the Bahamas government, what the Ministry of Work realized during the course of construction was that additional work was necessary. So the seawall was extended by an additional 200 feet to the east to ensure that the community is fully protected. And then we put a stairway and a ramp that will allow beach access on the western side of the ramp, and there are two intermediate stairways that you can access the beach from.
The Parliamentary Secretary says going forward, the Ministry of Works believes that this is the model that they will use for communities exposed to coastal erosion, adding that there has been a positive response from the community.
They were anxious to get it done, but we were very mindful of the fact that we must do it up to standard. We don't want to rush it for the sake of meeting deadlines and compromise the structure and the integrity of the seawall. So while they were anxious to ensure that it was open, we could not expose the government to any liabilities by having it open, and all of the safety mechanisms wasn't in place.
Over $6 million was spent on the project. It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News.
The Member of Parliament for Marcos City, the Honorable Michael Pintard, hosting a town meeting last evening at the BUT Hall to address matters concerning national insurance and the public service. The minister responsible for NIB and the public service, the Honorable Brentel, rolled on hand to address the concerns of residents.
In the case of NIB, it's what you contribute, you can get out. And in the case of the public service, because we're here to serve the public, our mission and because we're driven by the whole issue of service. People look at the public service and they criticize it sometimes because they don't get answers, and that's why we're here. We're really here to look at the human resources and how that's managed for individuals working in the government, and look at the quality of service delivered by the individuals who are hired by the government.
Minister Pintard says it is his responsibility to not only listen to concerns of his constituents, but also to provide answers and bring about solutions as it relates to various issues.
NIB has been one of the areas that have been consistently identified as residents where they have concerns over whether or not they've given sufficient contributions, are they receiving the correct remuneration at the time of retirement, what constitutes a disability, whether or not they ought to be receiving some benefits because they've been deemed by an independent doctor to be an invalid. All of these are critical matters that, despite our concern at the constituency level, we cannot answer those technical questions. And we were happy that the minister, his senior staff, consented to come down and address those issues.
An update now on the Oasis of the Seas cruise ship that was damaged in an accident at the shipyard on Monday. Information coming from the shipyard states that the damaged mega cruise vessel has been removed from dock number 2 and is safely secured at the North Beach facility. Reports say a crane collapsed on Monday afternoon while work was being done to the Oasis of the Seas cruise ship, resulting in 8 workers, including 1 Bahamian, sustaining injuries. They were all taken to hospital and have all been treated and discharged. The accident resulted in the loss of Dock 2, which is said to be significant for the shipyard since it is the primary dock for cruise ship repairs. Details on the extent of damage, schedule for repairs, and the status of the 2,100 crew members are not known at this time. In news from the courts, Devon Sutherland of Tamarind Street, Freeport, arraigned before Magistrate Rangan Johnson this morning on the charge of attempted murder. Sutherland is accused of shooting Selvin Swan while at a business establishment on the Mall Drive this past Saturday. Sutherland was not required to enter a plea, and he was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until July 23rd, when a preliminary inquiry will begin. Meantime, the alleged victim is still listed in critical condition in hospital. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Don't go away. There's more news right after this break.